Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video, and PvP has got a problem. While, albeit the War Within has made a lot of great progress and great additions to the game, I think that this problem in particular, as well as a few others that we're going to address, are so critical to player activity and player retention that they absolutely have to be addressed. And that main first component is current rating and MMR. It seems like every season that has current rating or MMR issues that prevents players from climbing up the ladder with any sense of efficiency, so they don't feel like their time is being wasted, whether it be in a long queue to only gain a very small amount of rating, if any. It just completely blows out player retention. It completely blows the wind out of their sails, and they're going to quit. It is a big problem, and it needs to be sorted out, and I would really like it to be sorted out in a way so that it is just repeatable season after season. I feel like this is something that you should only have to solve once, and then you just copy for the rest of the seasons. You find the exact point where it needs to be, where players feel like they're gaining rating without wasting their time, and they're able to feel like they're working towards the rewards that they want to get to, as opposed to getting hard locked, or as opposed to just blowing through it all immediately in one day with no effort for the majority of them. So right now, they've corrected the solo shuffle MMR to some extent. I think maybe it's still a little bit low on that side, but it's definitely improving. But Battleground Blitz, you can look at the chart, is seeing a huge issue with player participation just dropping off a cliff once you move 1600 to 1700. Now, do note that some of this is probably PvE players that used this to get the tier piece from PvP, which required 1600 rating. They probably used Battleground Blitz instead of other methods of PvP in order to get it. So a lot of this is likely contributed to that. But this huge drop off here from even 1400 to 1800 is because of how MMR and current rating in Battlegrounds works. So you can be 1700 rated current rating and randomly have 2700 matchmaking rating, which is over 1,000 rating difference between that. And if that happened in arena and you won that game, you would get a significant amount of points, probably like upwards of 70 plus points towards your rating if you win that game. But in Battleground Blitz, you get like 10 to 20. So I don't know why that is, what the math is on that number, but like if you win a game with your current rating with 1,000 difference between where your current rating and your MMR is, and you win that game, you should be getting a lot more than 10 to 20 points. That number is just way too low. It's just way too low. And to me, that seems like that is the easiest fix right now for Battleground Blitz, so that players aren't continuing to just give up because they're basically just turning over rating permanently in this zone because they're 1500 CR, but they're playing at 2600 MMR, getting 10, minus 10, plus 10, minus 10. The only people who can get up to these rating brackets are people like me who can just sit and spam play it enough to finally get out of that kind of toss. So I really do think they need to inject the amount of rating you get when you win a game in Battleground Blitz with a massive MMR difference between where you're currently sitting and where your matchmaking is. Another change that they made, which has increased queue times, which I agreed with when they did it, is that they've made the system change where it considers classes. So if one team has 4 rogues and the other team doesn't, that's an imbalance. So now the system will consider that and try to make sure that both teams have a rogue, for example, and they're not missing out on that. And I think that's really important for this threshold of players at the top, the top of the ladder. They really want an equal game. It's really important for them. But for players in this bracket that are maybe logging in after a day of work with like an hour to play, they would rather have an instant queue. And it's like, okay, they got 4 rogues, but it probably doesn't even matter at this rating bracket. 4 rogues of this skill level could probably still lose in a Battleground Blitz. So you've got this conflict of interest really between these players want a competitive game, these players just want to get in a game before they have to go change their kid's diaper or something like that. So I don't know, it's possible to make it so at higher brackets it does consider the specs, and these players will likely still sit the longer queue because they have the time to do it. And then this one doesn't care as much. It just gets the queue going because these guys want faster queues and they want to be able to make progress on their rating. And with the way that it currently is situated, neither of those situations are satisfied, and I think you're going to see players leave. So I would really, really, really like to see that addressed for Battleground Blitz specifically. Again, that was addressed for Solo Shuffle. We can see it with the rating distributions here, where players are now finally, these words were completely empty to begin with as time was going on. But even this will probably go up a little bit with time as MMR goes. And the main issue with Solo Shuffle is probably more so for healers, because when you're a healer and you're against a healer that's lower than you go 3-3, you can lose MMR, and that situation has just always been a problem. In my opinion, healers in Solo Shuffle, whatever you have to do to rig the system to make it so healers on average are higher rated than DPS needs to happen. It 100% needs to happen because it needs to you need to incentivize people to play the healer role in this bracket. And right now they're disincentivized because healers on average are going to be lower rated than DPS players because of what they can contribute to the match relative to DPS. They're going to be lower rated on average, and that's just going to lead to less participation. Path of least resistance. If it's less resistance to play DPS, more people will play the DPS. If it's less resistance for a healer, more people will play a healer. So something that I would like looked at. These are kind of like ongoing issues, and that's why I feel like this just needs to be looked at solidly one time, get it sorted out, and then just copy paste that moving forward for the rest of the seasons, because this is a huge issue for player retention. Now, the next issue that I wanted to talk about are rewards specifically. Now, obviously, with MMR being a problem, all of the improvements they made to rewards, they basically added more rewards to each of these brackets. They broke the elite set down to different thresholds, so you're always getting something when you climb 100 rating. And the tabard and I think the weapon illusion, they moved those around to be a little bit lower to try and incentivize that curve. But the MMR and current rating problems are preventing people from really even utilizing that anyways. But that was definitely an improvement. But I really think that we need more prestigious mounts for Battleground Blitz and Solo Shuffle. I do think that the Gladiator mount should be recolored and added to Shuffle and added to Battleground Blitz for the same cutoff, right? 50 wins above 2,400. I really think that that level of prestigious of a reward should definitely be added for consideration into both of these brackets. And I don't know why it would be particularly difficult to do that. Again, I'm not working directly in there. I don't know what the art budget is or how much time that actually takes to do that, but I would really like some type of recolored mount for these brackets, because obviously these are the brackets of the future of the average player. The average player is logging in, doesn't have a huge amount of time to organize their groups and maintain those relationships long term and make sure that everybody can log on at the same time, because they all have different schedules with work and family and everything else. They just want to log in, be able to get a game, fast queue, gameplay immediately, make progress towards their rewards, and develop their ability. It's just, to me, that's kind of where the future of gaming is going at the moment, and anything that forces that kind of like mandatory management is just gonna just start to lose participation over time. So for me, I would really like to see that changed. Another thing at the top of the ladder in Solo Shuffle is that your title reward is based on the popularity of your spec. So if not enough people are playing your spec, it will mean that only 3 players get the rank 1 title of their spec, which you can see Brewmasters are currently, there's 3. And then when we look at Balanced Druid, because Balanced Druid is also, I think, not that popular. Well, actually, it's a little bit more popular, although I think this number's wrong because no one's 2508. There's maybe like, actually, it'd be less than that now. There's like 3, maybe 4 spots for Balanced Druid as well. And this is completely different from like the first season of Dragonflight, where some specs had like 30 plus cutoffs on the title. I think some consistency on how many players get this title per spec needs to happen. Like, I don't know if it should be top 10, top 20, what it needs to be for this specifically, but having that massive discrepancy season to season, depending on the amount of players it's playing overall, it's really disincentivizing to anybody who might be a legend player that wants to push up towards a rank 1 level, because it's fluctuating season to season. It's not the same cutoff every time. It's consistently changing. So I would honestly like to see that. So these are like rewards. This is MMR, CR, what's going on with that. These are like the fundamental underpinnings of PvP that if they're not hit right, almost nothing else really matters. The next one is obviously class balance. And I've made like a little bit of a mini tier list here, basically breaking down like which specializations could use some buffs and like to what degree do I think that they need buffs. And obviously you can see on the bottom, do not buff tier with Feral Druid, Affliction Log, Beastmaster, Ellie, Shadow, Frost Mage, Devastation, Holy Paladin, Mistweaver, and Disc Priest. These guys are all feeling phenomenal, just in their current state and their current state of power. The second one with the 2% buff, this is ones where it's like you could probably get away with not doing a lot with them, but maybe some type of tweak to them could definitely help out in terms of maybe increasing their overall popularity and representation. The 2 to 5 is also another one where it's like very minor amount of change is probably going to get them into a pretty solid position. And then the 5 to 10 is kind of like these guys need more attention than the rest. And then this guy, I don't know with augmentation, because augmentation to me is just a tank spec in PvP. It just makes everybody not die. So I don't really know, but if I'm being unbiased, I feel like it's likely going to need like more significant buffs than everything else if it is going to be made to be viable. But class balance is probably easily like the one where they're hitting the nail on the head really well and getting really close to getting a lot of specs into a good spot. I think they just went too heavy-handed on nerfs with some specs, like on Holy Death Knight and Marksmanship Hunter. But the small tweaks that they've been making to everything else, maybe I should have made a nerf tier as well and put Beastmaster on the nerf tier, because BM Hunter I think does need to be nerfed. But overall, the class balance has been getting a lot better as time has been going on here. So I think that this is likely going to continue to improve. And I just wanted to lay out like some direction that I personally am noticing from my experience, what I've observed from other players, as far as like classes moving forward. But this underpinning stuff, the rating breakdowns and the rewards, like this stuff needs to get sorted out. It needs to get sorted out concretely in a way that is just, you just copy paste it for the rest of time. Like, what is the highest rating of players that you want to have? Like, where is that rating ceiling supposed to be? Should majority of players be pooling up below the cosmetic rewards, or because you can artificially move this number, right? Or should you move this number to where the rewards are, so majority of players are able to get into these rewards area? And how much time should it be expected for them to get there? You know, because all of these details matter, and maybe it's not as, you know, interesting or exciting to look at or work on or something like that, but like this has to get sorted out. It's the biggest problem easily for PvP right now. But I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with news related to World of Warcraft, then make sure to smash the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.